Welcome to everyone here in person today and to everyone who is visiting our service from home. We Unitarians of Lake Norman are an open and inclusive congregation. Our members walk diverse paths to find meaning and purpose, but we're united by our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all, and by the responsibility to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. My name is Sandy McFeely, and I've been an active member of this congregation since 2013. Our speaker today is Reverend Pat Jobe, who has been with our congregation since August of 2020. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
He will talk today about UU Orthodoxy. It could be a short sermon, as we have no doctrine or dogma or rituals that I can find that are absolutely set in stone. Or it could be long and discursive. We don't know, as we are big on values, relationships, and the many forms of love that can be found in this community. We start our services and other activities by lighting a candle inside a chalice and speaking words that call us to that occasion. Please, I guess I forgot to say, please turn down your electronic devices. Please join me in saying today's chalice lighting words, which are in your order of service. We light this flaming chalice to illuminate the world we see.
Search for truth, may we be just. In our search for justice, may we be loving.
And in loving, may we find peace. Our opening words today are...
I do have opening words, but I have a couple of things prior to opening words. And one of them is that you all noticed during Joys and Sorrows that we had a couple of people who tried to arrive simultaneously. That is actually a good thing. In larger congregations, what often happens is people will line up to wait to do Joys and Sorrows, and then we don't have the dead time of the transition from person to person. So we might try that, or we might not. The other thing I want to mention is that Mary Nicholson attended Connie Lyons' memorial service, but she didn't know Connie. And she spoke to me after the service and praised the idea of attending a memorial service for somebody you don't know. Because by golly, after a memorial service, you do know that person. And you know the spirit of that person, which in Connie's case was a little bit like a hurricane. Our opening words come from Katharine Hepburn and the Dalai Lama. Katharine Hepburn said, if you obey all the rules, you'll miss all the fun. And the Dalai Lama said, know the rules well so you can break them effectively.
Ordinarily, we would have a pause for some lovely centering music to take us into this time and space of worship and contemplation. But instead of that, and not asking the flash mob to do its thing quite yet, I guess we will surge right to Pat's sermon.
I am so thrilled that we have Carol number one with us, who's been with us before and knows quite a lot about Unitarian Universalism. But we have Carol 2 with us, and we have Cliff with us, who may well know nothing about Unitarian Universalism. So as you listen to this, I hope you will consider the possibility that even though you already know it, it's nice to be reminded. And if you don't feel that way, just keep it to yourself. One directory of cults lists us. One directory of cults lists us. Now, if that isn't the craziest thing you've ever heard of, I don't know what is. Well, you probably know who wrote the directory. somebody who wasn't a Unitarian Universalist or a member of Unity Church or a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon, need I say more, as the list narrows, you can imagine who wrote the directory. Cults are primarily religious organizations run by one dictator. They are strict in belief and practice. The dictator may seek to control dress, reading material, sexual activity, television watching, or enforce a total ban on television watching. They even seek to restrict diet. Unitarians, on the other hand, seek infinite variety. We like to do our own thing as long as we do no harm. And one person's own thing within the confines of this congregation may be darn near anything. And that is wonderful. Orthodoxy is the enemy of unity and diversity. Orthodoxy is generally a collection of rules. Among the worst in the history of Christianity was transubstantiation. The idea that the bread and wine of communion actually become the body and blood of Jesus and not just symbols of the body and blood. Because of this controversy, millions died in the Reformation as believers on both sides formed up armies, marched into battle, and killed each other. A lot of people have been hurt by orthodoxy. Rules which today appear as complete idiocy have been strictly enforced by sword and fire and torture chamber. Human beings have been cruel beyond imagination in the name of orthodoxy, in the name of enforcing the rules. And of course, we have rules. We have rules in spite of the intro that you heard from Sandy McFeely. We have rules. Our respect for each other extends to all kinds of polite behavior. Would you not agree, Ms. McFeely? All kinds of polite behavior. Okay, good. Good. I have learned the hard way that some jokes are inappropriate. Some new ideas won't fly. That one did not get quite the laugh. Got some sore muscles over that one, I'm assuming. And some behaviors are unacceptable. But I never felt dehumanized. The congregations I have worked with have never found it necessary to use sword, fire, or other means of torture to rein me in. And in that same way, I have never felt cut, burned, or tortured. It has not always been easy, but it has always worked. Come to think of it, I don't know any Unitarians who own implements of torture. You all may want to correct that after the service, but it is often amazing to me as we gather, hundreds of thousands of us, likely not millions, but hundreds of thousands of us gather all over the world in Unitarian Universalist congregations. We sing many of the same songs, and we affirm our diversity even as we gather in unity. We are like the world. Although we are mostly white, we gather in racial diversity. Although we are mostly straight, we affirm LGBTQ equality. Although we are mostly intellectual lovers of ideas, we affirm the power of emotions to draw us together in common cause. Talking about that LGBTQ diversity, we were down in Greenville several years ago, and we talked about it from the pulpit. And there was an openly gay woman there with a friend for the first time. And as we talked about embracing LGBTQ equality, she looked over at the friend who had invited her and said, "This is a church?" Mostly we are daughters and sons of individuality who allow all kinds of outlandish personalities and speech, who are sometimes completely undone by our differences, yet still allowing, still accepting, still embracing our willingness to be together. A group of UU women in their 90s were once asked what drew them to UUism. One of them said, and the rest agreed, I just didn't fit in anywhere else. Praise be that they didn't fit in anywhere else. But they did find it among us. So this is our orthodoxy. We support each other. Many of you will remember the day that G.O. Johnson stood up and asked, what is the spirituality behind your beliefs? And our beloved Jim Price said, our spirituality is that we support each other. We support each other. Ram Dass called it walking each other home. Our radical acceptance of each other, a sort of presumption of good intent, is valuable beyond measure. How remarkable a presumption of good intent. Now, obviously, some of us believe absolutely ridiculous things. And that has to be okay. As long as we are not dragging each other to some altar and trying to force each other to pray certain prayers or swear allegiance to certain abstractions about this or that mythological creature. Mythology is fine as long as it does no harm. Down in the Bluffton congregation, there is a man who has a bumper sticker on his car that says, I worship the flying spaghetti monster. And I mentioned it in a sermon down there, not realizing he had that bumper sticker, and he sort of started waving from the back of the crowd. But we may be facing mythologies that do harm us and those we care about. The worst of those myths is that we can't do more. We're already doing all we can do. We can't do any more. The worst of those myths is that we can't do more. Some of us feel hobbled by age and health concerns, but we can do more. Some of us are confined by our thoughts, but Unitarian Universalist orthodoxy is that we are not confined by our thoughts. We can think different thoughts and say different words and set new intentions and accomplish bigger and better things. Here is an old example that took me years to figure out. There's a saying, don't let your reach exceed your grasp. Honestly, I heard that for years before I understood it. I heard it for years before I was able to grasp what it means. There are lots of ways to grasp what it means. Let me demonstrate one way. No matter how hard I reach, if I keep standing where I'm standing, I cannot grasp those flowers. Those flowers are not only out of reach, but they're out of grasp. No matter how hard I try. I can move, I can extend my reach, but until I get in the right position, I cannot grasp those flowers. Here's another one. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Now, those of you who have done that know you don't want to ever do it again. Here's one from the first Top Gun movie. Don't let your ego write checks your body can't cash. Accepting that there are sometimes reasonable limits on what we can do, can we not do more? I'm pretty sure I've hit some outer limits a few times lately. During our month off, I had 2 funerals and a health crisis for my friend Gary Phillips. He has spoken here twice, and I think maybe 3 times, the first time on Zoom. He and I have been friends since our senior year in high school. Being with him and his family during his losing the ability to speak, eat, and walk due to encephalitis, and then recovering felt like being dangled by a rope over a pit. It was hard work. And I'm going to put a stone in the water for my beloved brother. When Bob Dole ran against H.W. Bush in 1988, he said, being vice president doesn't require any heavy lifting. Some of you may think that being a minister doesn't require any heavy lifting either, but others of you know that it does. Just for the record, I have actually been involved in 4 funerals in the past 60 days, and I can assure you that end-of-life stuff can be messy, sad, heartbreaking, crazy-making, and involves some very heavy lifting. Still, I ask again, can we do more? Our orthodoxy is openness and acceptance. I could be wrong. And let me say emphatically that having a minister who stands in the pulpit and says, I could be wrong, is essential Unitarian Universalism. If I ever get to thinking I'm always right, y'all may have to sit me down and have a long talk, or worse. In openness and acceptance, we create a congregation of good listeners, good talkers, people who have good things to say and good things to listen to. It is the exact opposite of a cult. In a cult, there's generally only one voice and everybody else is expected to listen. In the best of our congregations, everybody gets to talk and everybody is committed to making sure that the talker is heard. Processing ideas and beliefs is as sacred to us as the strictness and tyranny of cults is to those folks. In just a minute, you're going to get an opportunity to talk. As you think about what you want to say, let me ask some questions. What appeals to you about the freedom found in Unitarian Universalism? Is it the possibility of doing more, saying more, thinking more and better thoughts? Or is it simply the fact that being a UU, we don't have to be like those other people? Those cult followers, those lemmings rushing back to the sea. You will remember that part of the genius of UUism is that we don't think ourselves better than other people, except for people who think they're better than other people. We don't really want to have anything to do with that crap. Maybe our orthodoxy is about as strict as anybody else's. Maybe our orthodoxy is for open-mindedness and acceptance. People who are open-minded and accepting of others are welcome here. Mulaney Price was among the tiny gathering of UUs who meet in my home county. She said it drove her crazy when her neighbors would ask, "Where do you go to church?" She said in 2019, she finally got to say, "I'm a Unitarian." Now it's your turn to talk. Sandy, come help shepherd the crowd.
This is the best part of it. You get to talk, complain, ask questions, add your own personal stories about just what might fit into today's discussion.
My name is Regina. I've been a member of this congregation since 2017. I grew up Episcopalian. It never made any sense to me at all. And I spent a lot of my 30s and 40s going to different churches, trying to find one that made sense. And we did go to Episcopalian church again, and they just, not that they aren't a good church, but they say the same thing throughout the seasons of the year. And to me, a church should inspire you to be better and to be a better person and to help other people And when I discovered Unitarians, it made sense.
Great.
So the mention about finding a place where one feels at home, where one feels welcome. And I'm very fortunate that I grew up a Unitarian. I was a Unitarian in preschool. I was a Unitarian because of my grandmother, who made a point on Sundays to go out to various churches just to find a group that she would fit in with. Most of the places that she went to quite often said, maybe the church you want to go to is the one down on the other side of town. But when she went to the Unitarian church, she knew she was just so welcome, so taken in. And then what was being talked about, what I grew up with in terms of one of the things we always talked about, how other religions exercise and worship their holidays, how the holidays were so much the same for so many different religions. They occur at the same time, but, they're for various reasons. Learning about how all of that fit together, how we all get together as a society, how we commune is what it was all about. And that was, all my life being a Unitarian has just been such a standard for me. All my friends, their churches and everything else, and all these other things, it's like, hey, what really makes sense when you get down to it? It's what we're talking about here in the Unitarian Church, the Unitarian cult.
We're number one.
As Eddie's coming up, I just wanted to add a tiny personal note. I have held in my hands and read from that book that Pat talked about, where we are described as a cult. It was used in a Southern Baptist seminary some years ago, and it may still be used there today. So I guess we're still the same good old cult.
Hi, I'm Eddie. I got here by way of Catholic school teachings growing up, and I went all the way to 9th grade, and then they threw me out. So then I wound up working in a prison here in Taylorsville, Alexander Prison, and my partner that I met there was a minister, a Baptist minister. And I told him I was looking for some spirituality, that I had lost it with the Catholic Church and I didn't have anything for me. And he said, come be a Baptist. So I was a Baptist, and I was in the choir, I was in the harmonica, adding to the band, and everything was good. And I met this real old-fashioned, old preacher, and he loved me. We got along great. And I came home to Naomi, who was at the time working in an Episcopal church, taking care of the kids during the Mass. And I came home and I said, well, the minister wants me to help out with the revival that he's got coming for the next 7 days. And Naomi says, I don't think I can handle that. She says, you were Catholic, but you didn't practice it. She says, you became a Baptist, and I didn't like it. She thinks Baptists are not friendly. I stayed with it, but now you're going to pull people off the street to become Baptists? I can't go with that. And I said, all right, I tell you what, I'll leave being a Baptist because I don't need them. I need the spirituality that I found in God, but I don't need to be a Baptist. So let's find a non-denominational place that we can go together. And she was let go from that job where she was teaching the kids. So now she had Sundays. So she got on the computer and looked up UU, and we found this Lake Norman UU. And from day one, we fell in love with it. And it was okay because nobody tried to make her a Christian. Nobody gave me a hard time for being a Republican. At the time, no more. But at the time, don't look at me like that. At the time, I didn't have a lot in common, but I got along with everyone, and that's the way it is. You get fit in. You do get to fit in.
Yeah, yeah, you sure do.
I'm Susan, and I'm thinking about orthodoxy and how I made it here to UU. And I love the fact that UU doesn't tell me I have to believe anything. And all the other religions that I have had any exposure to, either just through learning about them or direct experiences, told me I had to believe something. But the thing that clinches at me most, it bothers me the most, is when any of those other religions, if you go deep into their deepest orthodoxy, women are put down. It's the Mormons, the Jews, the Islams, the Catholics, it's a lot of the Protestant women are just put down, put in their place, and that just doesn't fit with me at all. And UU has never at all given me that feeling, and that's been very important to me.
Yes.
I think Pat said it best, and I hadn't heard it put this way before, but I'm here because I didn't fit in anyplace else. And
And if we got everybody in here who doesn't fit in anywhere else, we don't have enough seating. We don't have enough parking places in the parking lot. But thank you so much for bringing Carol 2 with you today. And we'll always welcome new folks, Carol 2, until we run out of seats, and then we'll go find some more seats.
you want to talk? Come on.
I am not one for public speaking, but I feel a little bit called to share a little bit of my story. I grew up in a family where one side, the patriarch was a Southern Baptist minister of greatness and good friends with Jerry Falwell and Billy Graham and all of that. And he was very fire and brimstone. But at home, there was love that was abounding. It was amazing. And I would see him with my grandmother, who played the piano, take people food and go well-dressed and coiffed to depressed areas. And that's what started, I think, a spirituality for me. Now, the other side of my family were praying to the God of the Republican Party in their congressman issues. And so I kind of grew up fitting in. I fit in the Baptist church. I could fit in with the Episcopalians. I could fit in everywhere because I was taught how to dress and what to do and all the rules that you had to do. And then I found some real freedom because I just listened to my heart. And my mother also was exceptionally bright, which she still is. As many of you know her, she can hold her own at close to 90. And so she, with this great brain, growing up in some of that herself, ran to the library every day. And that's where she found her freedom, in the intellectual realm of togetherness. And so when I had the great opportunity to bring her closer to here, where my family, my husband and my 2 children, we joined the Methodist church. They had the best preschool. So, you have to fit in, and provide for your family. And they were great because I didn't find anything too offensive there. But I remember doing a walkabout with my mom as she left the Episcopal church in Tennessee, where she said, I had to join a church where somebody read a book all the way through. And, she found her people there, and it was loving and beautiful. So we can fit in to many different places. And when she came here, we went to the Methodist church, great organ, amazing. And then we went to the one downtown, even greater organ. And so we went to quite a few different places, and we came to this beautiful place meditating with the Quakers. And many people who we knew were members of UU. And we thought, well, we know them. We love them. They seem to love us too. We will go. And we found the home at Piedmont. And I remember somebody telling me quite a while ago when I was dating, you may be thinking, how do you think about that person? What do you think about them? Wrong question. How do you feel about you when you are with that person? And that resonated phenomenal truth with the UU group. How we feel with you about ourselves is what the community is about. It's love. And while you can find that in many different places, we have found it to be home with Unitarians. We don't need to look any further. Thank you.
I'd say she's quite a good public speaker. Thank you. Does anybody else wish to add something? Today, we don't have a musical reflection, but the music of everybody's reflection has been just a lovely part of today's service. Thank you. That was great.
Good.
This fellowship is important to us all, and we've just heard in some detail how it is. The contributions we make today allow us to sustain and grow our congregation and to reach out to our community, both nearby and in the larger world. Your giving affirms our commitment to each other and to the community. And may I urge the viewers at home to switch just briefly to the main page of our website and just hit the donate button to join with here with the in-person members.
Yay.
With grateful hearts, we receive these gifts and we thank Eddie for his. May they encourage us to live lives of integrity, compassion, and peace. We're also grateful to all the people who make possible our Sunday services, all our various community activities, and presenting us to the outside world via the newsletter and YouTube. That includes everyone who cheers us on by being in these seats today, or in their even more comfortable ones at home. Let's take a look at the announcements in your order of service, and we'll talk about maybe a couple that might be important. Congratulations on the biggest, bestest fence build of the year. Social suppers. Everyone, especially visitors, is welcome to join the informal group at a local restaurant right after the service. Linda Heidenberg has a plan for today and will tell us about it, perhaps.
We're going to go to Fusion Bowl in Cornelius.
Okay. If you think you might want to go, she usually calls ahead so they know how many tables to cram together for us. So just let her know. She also runs Movie Tuesdays. Almost every Tuesday, we see an afternoon movie at Birkdale, followed by a snack at a local eatery, where we can talk about the movie and everything else in the world. This week's movie is Trap. But Linda says it might be scary. It starts at 1:10.
Most people don't want to see it.
So if you'd like to join in, just contact Linda or show up. Okay.
I've got it quick one.
Oh, Reverend Pat will now speak.
I have just a few of these little pieces of paper that talk about the Joy of Freedom walk that's coming up on the day of Jim Price's birthday party.
September 7th?
September 7th, right. And these little sheets of paper instruct you on how to give and how, I don't have enough for everybody on this. I just send them out to a few folks. These are instructions on how to give and how to walk. And, well, I mean, how to participate in the walk. As far as I can tell, most of you already know how to walk. Thank you, Sam.
Is that it?
That was it.
Okay.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah. One of the ways it used to be called the Barefoot Mile. You don't have to go barefoot. You can wear actual shoes if you'd like to, and it's a very pleasant, lovely mile through a wooded park. At least it was before.
And we are leading the pack right now. We have the best team so far.
Same place it was last year?
No, it's Pine Bowl.
Bigger and better.
Yeah, bigger and better. Pine Bowl instead of where it was last year.
Okay. One of the things we did, even during our month off, was to slice and dice and stir and cook and serve people at FeedNC. Our next chance to do that is this very coming Thursday. If you would like to join our excellent and intrepid crew, contact Jim Arnold, the tall guy over there, the other tall guy over there. He also leads the quarterly litter cleanup of Concord Road here in Davidson. That'll be September 14th for an hour and a half on that Saturday morning.
2 hours, easy, 2 hours.
2 hours, okay, whatever. It's a pretty easy time to get to know a few people and declutter the roadway.
And we get a lot of thank yous from the walkers and the bikers.
Have they sent any money?
Now I gave them some T-shirts with the Unitarian symbol, maybe. Maybe.
Maybe, okay. For those numerous among you who have read the newsletter that came out on Thursday. Great, 4 people, that's fabulous. There was an article in there for probably the 3rd time about chalice circles that will be forming or reforming this fall and perhaps again in the early winter. Take a look at that piece. I'm sure you didn't delete the whole thing, because the people who are organizing this, Natalie Helling and Marge Flowers, want to know what you think, how you would like things to be done. Lord knows, we are flexible. But you have to let them know what your preferences are, if you're interested, and all of that. So dig back through your emails and take a look at that article. Did I miss anything? Okay.
You were fabulous.
Oh, thank you. Okay. For our closing song today, it'll be number 1024 in the teal paperback books. Do what you got to do when the Spirit says do, and our flash mob will be forming.
Come on, George. Come help us, George. Yeah, thank you. Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Thank you.
It says it's in D minor.
No, we're not doing it in D minor. We're doing it in G.
Oh, okay.
I do everything in G.
1024.
Sandy, come over here and hold the book, please.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
We live to serve.
Thank you. All right. Stand if you're able and willing. You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do, Lord. Do when the Spirit says do. You got to Sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing, sing, sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. You got to dance when the Spirit says dance. You got to dance, 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 Lord. Dance, dance, dance. Got to dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says laugh. You got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. You got to laugh, 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 Lord, laugh, laugh, laugh. You got to laugh when the Spirit says laugh. Amen. Amen.
That was fabulous, of course.
It's not always like this. Yeah. Yeah, our closing words come from G.K. Chesterton, who said, angels can fly because they take themselves lightly.
At the close of our service, we extinguish the chalice, but not the light of truth,
Or the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. If you want to hold hands, hold hands. If you prefer not to hold hands, just cross your hands over your chest. And let's sing together. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Yay. Oh, I love George's singing. George can sing.